Where do I even start? Where do I even start? 32 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks, 7 threes, 11 for 20, and only 31.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, basketball fans and casual observers alike, grab your popcorn, buckle your seatbelts, and prepare yourself for the most satisfying serving of instant karma the WNBA has witnessed in years. Because what happened on Saturday, June 14th wasn't just a basketball game. Oh no, folks, this was a masterclass in revenge, a symphony of vindication, and a reminder that sometimes, just sometimes, the basketball gods have a sense of humor sharper than a perfectly executed crossover. 8.
And just like that, she's back. Caitlin Clark drops 35 after her 5-game layoff from injury. It was at a point where she scored 9 points in less than 45 seconds. I mean, crossing the half-point line, one dribble, and just pulling it from the logo. Like, these plays are just...
The Indiana Fever walked into Gainbridge Fieldhouse with one mission: to hand the undefeated New York Liberty their first loss of the season. And guess who was leading the charge? That's right, Caitlin Clark, fresh off a 5-game absence due to injury, ready to remind everyone exactly why she's the most electrifying player in women's basketball.
Well, the Indiana Fever, I'm watching it. It just went final, 102-88 over the league undefeated, now defeated, New York Liberty. New York Liberty, Stephanie White did not.
The Liberty strutted in with their perfect 9-0 record, looking like they owned the league spoiler. Alert, they were about to get a reality check. So brutal, it would make a tax audit look like a spa day. But this wasn't just any game, folks. This was personal. This was about settling scores and evening ledgers that had been tilted for far too long.
Well, the Indiana Fever say, come on, New York. Come on. Somebody's got to give you this first L, and I guess it's going to be us. No Jonquel Jones, but the Indiana Fever handled business. 102-88. We finally hit triple digits thanks to CC22.
You see, the last time these two teams met, there was controversy thicker than your grandma's gravy. On Thanksgiving morning, Natasha Cloud, the Liberty's defensive specialist, had stripped the ball from Clark in the final seconds of their previous encounter, and Clark felt she had been fouled a call that never came, a grievance that festered, and a memory that burned brighter than a phoenix summer.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Kayla Clark put on a show, dropped 25 in the first half. Then she was diamonded here, diamonded there. They scored over 100 points first time in the season, and they gave New York Liberty their first L. Take that L, go back to the Hudson River, and go back to New York with that L. You know what I'm saying? And I can't stand Sabrina. I'm going to call her Sabrina I Flop You, because all she does is flop. I can't stand Sabrina Ionescu. She's a flopping machine. I'm glad she's taking that L today. Caitlin Clark, 32 points, 7 for 14 from 3. That's 50%. 8 rebounds, 9 assists. She almost had a double-double, almost close to it.
If you are enjoying, please subscribe. Clark had been watching from the sidelines for 5 long games, nursing a quad injury, while her team struggled, and the WNBA's ratings plummeted faster than a lead balloon. The league discovered just how much they needed their golden goose when viewership dropped by a staggering 55%. Without her on the court, it was like watching a blockbuster movie franchise try to continue without their main character. Technically possible, but nobody really wanted to see it. And then came Saturday. Clark didn't just return, she exploded back onto the scene like a firework factory. Catching lightning, the woman was on a mission, and that mission had Natasha Cloud's name written all over it in permanent marker.
Caitlin Clark, 9 points in 20 or 38 seconds. Oh my goodness. Came back to back logo threes. For a minute, man, I told the chat, call the cops on Caitlin Clark for logo abuse. Oh my goodness, man, she was killing.
From the opening tip, you could feel the electricity in the arena. The Liberty jumped out to an early 176 lead, looking every bit like the defending champions. They were moving the ball, hitting shots, and playing with the confidence of a team that had forgotten what losing felt like for a moment. It seemed like Clark's return might be a footnote rather than a headline. But then, with just over 3 minutes left in the first quarter, something magical happened. Clark converted a 3-point play, and you could see the spark ignite in her eyes.
The Indiana Fever, That is Fever basketball at its finest. Fever ball at its finest. As a team, by the way, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. The least turnovers the Fever have had in a game as a team.
What happened next was nothing short of basketball poetry written in real time in the span of just 38 seconds. Clark launched 3 consecutive three-pointers from distances that would make NASA jealous, 33 feet, 27 feet, and 31 feet, each one finding nothing. But net the arena erupted like Mount Vesuvius, and suddenly the game was tied at 24. This wasn't just basketball anymore, folks. This was Clark, announcing to the world that she was back, that her injury hadn't dulled her edge, and that she had some unfinished business to attend to. The woman was shooting from distances that required a GPS system, and every shot was falling like autumn leaves in October.
3 threes in 38 seconds in the first half. Caitlin Clark hit 3 logo bombs, by the way. 3 logo bombs in 38 seconds. This was the Caitlin Clark we all said, oh, she's different. She's sent from outer space. The Caitlin Clark that we saw today was the Caitlin Clark that we were accustomed.
Clark had already amassed 25 points on 6 three-pointers, the most points she had ever scored in a single half of her professional career. The Fever held a 5,350 lead, and you could see the concern creeping into the Liberty's eyes like morning shadows. This wasn't a script they had written for their perfect season. The third quarter saw the Liberty make one last desperate push, opening with a 9 run that briefly restored their confidence, but Clark and the Fever responded with the basketball equivalent of a nuclear option, a 190 run that left the Liberty looking like they needed a map to find the basket. Every time New York tried to mount a comeback, Clark had an answer. Every time they thought they had figured her out, she pulled another three-pointer out her bag of tricks like a magician with an endless supply of rabbits.
For one of the best and most elite performances we have ever seen from Caitlin Clark. Now, I got to remind everybody about this. Caitlin Clark is coming off an injury, bro. What we seen today was greatness. This was similar to the Michael Jordan flu game. I mean, it's up there type deal, bro. Caitlin Clark just handed the New York Liberty the ass whooping of a lifetime. And what's crazy about all of this is that the referees couldn't even save them. See, last time the referees was able to save New York and they walked away with the victory. The game was so far out of reach, the referees had to
Justin threw it all. Natasha Cloud was there trying to guard the unguardable, attempting to stop a force of nature with a basketball equivalent of an umbrella. In a hurricane, the irony was delicious. Folks, the same player who had stripped Clark's hopes away in their last meeting was now watching helplessly as Clark systematically dismantled her team's perfect record. When the final buzzer sounded, the scoreboard read 88, and Clark had finished with 32 points, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, and 7 three-pointers, tying her career high for made threes. But the numbers impressive, as they were only told part of the story. This was about more than statistics. This was about statement-making, score-settling, and reminders. Sending the Fever had set a franchise record with 17 made three-pointers on 48. 6% shooting from beyond the arc. They reached triple digits for the first time this season, and they had handed the mighty Liberty their first loss. But most importantly, they had done it with Clark leading the charge like a general commanding her troops into battle.
Just got what they deserve. Okay, but Caitlin Clark went off. I'm happy. That is what people pay to see. Do you see the difference when Caitlin Clark is on the floor? She makes the whole offense way better. The offense is better. They're clicking. They're getting to their spot.
For the Liberty, this loss wasn't just a number in the standings. It was a reality check wrapped in humility and delivered with a side of humble pie. Sabrina Ionescu did her best to keep pace with 34 points, and Brianna Stewart added 24. But it wasn't enough to stop the Clark tornado that had swept through Indianapolis. They had entered the game as the last unbeaten team in the WNBA, and they left with their perfect record in tatters and their confidence shaken. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say the point guard on the court, Natasha Cloud, the same player who had been so confident in her defensive prowess. Just weeks earlier found herself on the wrong end of one of the most dominant individual performances in recent WNBA history. The basketball gods, it seems, have a sense of humor, and they had decided that this was Caitlin Clark's night for redemption.
Natasha Cloud's Linsanity run is over. As I said, her player of the week, the player of the week curse, we saw it happen to Kelsey Mitchell as well till the end of that game where she was so clutch. But her Linsanity runs over. I got a DM from somebody going, Natasha Cloud's great. What are you talking about her Linsanity run? I'm like, was there a Linsanity run? I was like, she can play defense. She's not a great offensive player. Forget the referees. The referees. This was apparently a foul. This was apparently a foul on Lexi Hull. And there were so many of them throughout the game. Brianna Stewart shot 14 free throws. Stewie shot 14. Half of them fans.
The beauty of sports is that they provide a stage for these kinds of narratives to unfold. Here was Clark returning from injury with something to prove, facing off against the very player who had denied her a potential game-winning shot in their previous encounter. And not only did she prove her point, she did it in the most emphatic way possible by outplaying everyone on the court and leading her team to victory against the league's best team. The ripple effects of this game extend far beyond the final score. Clark's return has reignited interest in the WNBA in ways that executives could only dream of. Social media exploded with highlights. Ticket prices for future Fever games skyrocketed by as much as 366%, and suddenly everyone was talking about women's basketball. Again, a league that had watched its ratings crater during Clark's absence was reminded once again why she's considered the most popular athlete in America by the WNBA commissioner herself.
This is what people pay to see, guys. That's why the TV ratings are high when she's on TV. She's fun to watch. Girls balling out, back-to-back threes from the logos, man. She was just going off tonight. And I was so glad that she's out there having fun, bro. Like, she was going off, bro.
Like she was going off, bro, this game served as a perfect case study of Clark's impact on the sport. When she's healthy and playing the WNBA, becomes must-see television arenas, sellout ratings soar, and casual fans become diehard supporters. Clark's influence transcends the box score. During her injury absence, nationally televised Fever games averaged just 847,000 viewers, down 53%. From her pre-injury average of 1.8 million, her return against the Liberty drew 2.7 million viewers on ABC, making it the third most watched WNBA game of the season. This isn't incidental. Its systemic. The Clark effect has driven the Fever to become the first WNBA team with 1 million social media followers on any platform, while their merchandise sales surged so dramatically that the team's store faced an audit for suspicious revenue spikes. Ticket prices for her games routinely exceeds $600, and her presence has contributed an estimated $36 million 500,000 cents to Indianapolis's economy in 2024 alone.
Undeniable exists for a reason, and it applies to Caitlin Clark. She is just absolutely undeniable, and her return to the Indiana Fever showed it once again. It felt like a jolt of energy to the WNBA, obviously to the Indiana Fever, who looked like a completely different team, as Caitlin Clark put on a show that only she can in leading the team to a win over the New York Liberty, the first L for the Liberty on the.
When Clark plays, the WNBA isn't just relevant, it's a cultural event. Her absence has been a reminder of just how much the league relies on her star power, and her triumphant return was like watching the sun emerge from behind storm clouds. Clark's appeal lies in her ability to blend old school grit with new school flair. Her logo threes and no-look passes cater to highlight real obsessives, while her unapologetic competitiveness, evidenced by her fiery reaction to Cloud's defensive physicality, resonates with purists. This duality has created a fan base that spans generations. Families pack arenas to see her play, while WNBA engagement per post is 16x higher than the NBA. The Liberty game proved this, with courtside tickets reselling $4 to $5,000, and the arena's noise levels hitting $116 dB during her introductions, louder than most NFL stadiums. Clark isn't just attracting fans, she's cultivating a movement. It was at a point where she pulled in the logo, and her and Stewart were just laughing, because it was just that unbelievable "I told y'all" face of the league. And for Natasha Cloud and the Liberty, this loss will sting for a while. They have been perfect, riding high on their championship pedigree and defensive excellence. But Clark reminded them that perfection is fragile, that even the best laid plans can crumble when faced with generational talent. Having the game of her life, the beauty of this revenge story lies not just in the outcome, but in how it unfolded. Clark didn't just beat the Liberty, she dominated them with the very skills that make her special. Her three-point shooting, her court vision, her ability to take over games when it matters most, all of it was on full display against a team that thought they had her figured out.
The point where she pulled from the logo And her and Stewart were just laughing because it was just that unbelievable. I told y'all, face of the league.
As the dust settles on this incredible performance, one thing is crystal clear. Caitlin Clark's return to the WNBA isn't just good news for the Indiana Fever, a shot in the arm for the entire league, a reminder of what makes sports special, and a perfect example of why they say the best revenge is living well. Or in this case, shooting lights out from three-point range to Liberty's perfect season is over Natasha Cloud. Learned that karma has a jump shot, and Caitlin Clark reminded everyone why. She's the most electrifying player in women's basketball, ladies and gentlemen. The Queen has returned her throne, and she's not planning on giving up any time.
And much to the credit of Caitlin Clark, this team won a massive